Okay, today I am going to show you the simplest example of AutoMapper. Let's start the project here. AutoMapper's nice if you're reading in a lot of database tables and you want to move those to a view or a response model or something, and you want it to have different fields. You can create a mapping profile and tell it what field goes to where, and then it's separated out from the code so it'll look clean. Let's get rid of this. We'll have to add a couple of packages, but let's just start off with making this a public class. Start off with for our console test, and then of course we'll make this a static void main. Something we did a lot of back in my old C days. Alright, that looks pretty good. So let's add a couple of packages. We'll add AutoMapper version 14 because 14 is the last free version. I think 15 they expect a license with it now. So let's try that. There we go. So 14 it is. And I'm too lazy to map stuff by hand, so I will probably be using AutoMapper 14 for the longest time, or fork it myself and make any adjustments that I need. But I mean, it's just mapping from one object to another. What bug fixes will it need in the future? I mean, they're just adding features at this time. And let's also add, that didn't paste well, did it? It's me being too lazy, but costing me more time. We'll add Microsoft's dependency injection here. There we go. And then we'll include a couple usings. Auto completion's always appreciated. Dependency injection. And using AutoMapper. And we're probably going to use a little JSON. So let's bring in the system one of that. There are other JSON interpreters. Okay, now let's start off with our DI. Grab that from the new service collection. Oh, look at that. All nice and auto-completing. And a way I like to do it for AutoMapper, because I don't want to define it here or name where all my sources are, is I will do the type of program dot assembly. Okay. That way we can go ahead and add a folder here, and we can call it profile because the profiles is what it's going to pick up. So we'll add a profile here in a minute, but let's make sure we do everything in order. We need to be able to use it. So service provider is going services, build, service provider. Let's get the scope. Service provider create scope. And finally our mapper scope service provider get required service mapper. Alright, that looks pretty good so far. So I guess what we're going to do here is have two models. So let's create a models folder, okay? Folder models, and we're going to have two models. One can be, let's say property will be a representation of our database. So property CS, and I already have it made up because I don't want to type all this, but this would be a representation of, you know, a database table in SQL Server or anywhere else. And let's say we have another model that we call, and let's call it address response. Okay, I'm going to copy and paste that over because I'm lazy. Alright, and this is how we want the output to look, and if you'll notice, this one has add line instead of address line, just doing that to show how we map it if the names don't, you know, match up completely, and added the full address here. So I'm going to bring over a properties JSON that has the values and that's just the representation of our property here, of how we might see it when we pull it from the database. Just 5 rows, just for, you know, a fun example. And then we'll need to read that in. So let's grab our JSON. Did I spell it right? Yeah. Not that it has to be spelled anyway. Which way? Read all text from this file. Properties.json. Okay, I should read it in. And I'm just going to paste this to deserialize it. Should find it. Class property. Maybe it's because we haven't compiled this yet. Maybe we didn't see it. Oh, my bad. I put the folder in the wrong place. They're supposed to be in my test. Move it. Move it. You're not gonna let me move that. Thank you. Appreciate it. My bad for not putting these in the right spot to begin with. Hey, now look, it's happy. Alright, so we got our models. We're going to create a profile now. And, you know, that can be named whatever you want it to be named. It's kind of moot, but for the fun of it, we can call it property profile, and use AutoMapper, and then to just will this thing do a C-door? I'll get this nice. Not exactly what I wanted, but I still don't have to type that out. Of course, this is going to use profile, extend profile. And then what we have to do is going to pick up these. So anything that, you know, extends profile, it's going to pick up based on what we put here. So he's going to pick up any assembly that has to do with AutoMapper, and anyone with profile is going to be picked up. So we just need to create one map. Create map. Oh. I don't know why that's not coming up. Okay, let's try to create map again. There we go. And we want to move the values in property to the values in address response. Now, defaultly, just this is going to pick up all the fields with matching names out of both objects and just, you know, move them there for you. But for like address line 1, you know, we'll have to do like, you know, for member there. You see it autocomplete these. There's address line 1. You know, we want to grab map from address line 1. So now we've moved it. When it sees this field, it's going to, you know, move it here. So we can copy and paste that one because I don't want to type more. And then, you know, for like the full address, here, let me just paste a copy of one of these. I'm going to say for, you know, full address, you know, I'm going to map from source. And then basically we're going to just fill it out the way we want to fill it out, right? So we'll say address line 1, and then let's see. It should be, oh yeah, my bad. Okay, and then of course we can do, you know, comma, you know, I'm doing it with my fingers, huh? src, source, what did I do? Oh, man, am I goofy, huh? Look at this. I'm just all over the place tonight. Why isn't this sucker auto-completing? City, and then of course we can do source.state. Oh boy, oh boy. Am I doing rough? But I'm still having fun. State, we'll just do that much. Okay? So, let's see, what are we missing? We've read the file in, and now we're going to dump it. So we read it in, we've got our profile, and now let's just make sure that, you know, properties table is not equal to null. And then we can say for each property in properties table, then we can we can map it. We can say bar res. We could have mapped it all at once, but here we'll just do it one at a time. We do mapper dot map. We should have mapper. Yeah, I see it up there. That should be good. address response, and we're passing in that property to it, right? All right, and so then we can dump this on the console to see what it looks like. Console.writeLine, and we can say, you know, full address is res.full address, and then we can say for one of the other fields that to test it that we mapped it, address line 1. Address line 1. Okay, I mean, this should be complete enough to work. We'll test that out. And here is the properties JSON. Probably got to put that in my CS project. It's an output item for it to pick it up. Let's make sure it copies it to output. It might be helpful. Yep, there we go. So we got the full address, and we got address line 1. Now, if we go back into the profile and we take out this mapping, well, we can let's take this out, and we can show that one of the other. You know, we can already tell that the auto mapping works, but let's just check city without it being part of one of these. We'll add that to our output, and we'll show that address line 1 shouldn't output now. Just so we can show proof of what we're doing. Okay. So there we go. We didn't get address line 1 because we didn't map it, but we did get city because it did, you know, auto map from the matching name, since city and, you know, city match up. So we can go back into here, undo this. We'll see that it maps. So it's just nice to have AutoMapper. It's cleaner, and you know, here I am, and this is mapped for me. So this is pretty nice. Property tables is a list of properties. So we could have converted it all at once instead of piecemealing it, probably. We could have said mapper.map to a list of address response, and then, you know, passed in the properties table. How is that gonna, oh, look at me here. Look at me here. Here we go. I swear the more I do, my fingers just want to do their own thing. So res 2 should contain them all without us having to do, you know, one mapping, you know, at a time down here. I mean, so we could for each that as well for fun. Var val in res 2 bam, and then just say console dot write line and then full list val. We can just say val dot full address here just to show that you know, we mapped it all in this one mapping. Yep, looks good. Sometimes easier just to use a one-liner to move one table to another, or one model to another model, and, you know, display it how you want to display it without having such large code. And, you know, it just makes it easier to read, right? And then to come over to your profile and see how you laid that out, you know, just, you know, separates it and keeps it pretty nice. You know, you do create maps in here for multiple models, so that works out really well. And you can set like defaults here too. Like if you do let's see, where do I have that? Let me see where I have that. 1 second. And I'll show one of those if I have it here somewhere. Profiles. Here we go. Yeah, so we could just do like a generic, like if we were going to do a date time, we could do a generic. And so instead of worrying about the mapping of any dates in each one of these, this would just be a generic way to say create a map from a date time you read from the database and convert it to a string in this format. So I mean, there's just a few of these shortcuts that are nice. You could do like null strings to make sure they're all, you know, empty strings instead of null. And there's a lot more advanced things you can do with calling a function to break down a value, but you know, we can get into that later. This is just the simplest way to do it. It's easy to use, and it makes your code a lot easier to read. So I would definitely do it. Well, thanks for listening, and I hope you enjoyed it. If you have any comments, I'd be happy to answer any questions you have as well.